So this is your Exponents A worksheet. I thought since I couldn't be there today, I would work through some of these problems. Some of them are pretty easy, others are more complicated, and sometimes it just helps to see how someone else works it out. So our exponent rules is what we're really practicing. The first set of problems are, do we remember what our exponent rules are? So we have number 1, -3 squared, which is different from -2, -3 in parentheses squared. This is a very important distinction to notice. In number 2, the negative is inside the parentheses, which means -3 times -3, which is +9. In number 1, the negative is not inside parentheses, so that means -3 times 3. The exponent comes before you multiply, which makes it -9. Number 3 is 3 to the -2 power. A negative exponent is the reciprocal, so that means 1 divided by 3 to the +2 power, which is 1/9. Number 4 is -4 to the -2 power. Again, that negative is not inside parentheses, so it's not getting raised to a power. So the negative exponent means it's 1/4 squared. The negative outside means the whole answer would be negative, and that makes it -1/16. And the negative could be out front, or it could be in the numerator. We don't generally put the negative sign in the denominator. Number 5 is -5 to the 0 power. Well, anything to the 0 power is 1, so this is -1. Again, number 6, 8 to the 0, that equals 1 as well. Why? Well, if you have, let's say, 8 to the nth power divided by 8 to the nth power, it doesn't matter what the exponent is. Anything divided by itself equals 1. But if you subtract exponents, n minus n equals 0, so that means it's also equal to 8 to the 0, and therefore 8 to the 0 power equals 1. Number 7, 16 times 4 to the -3 power, which is 16 times 1/4 cubed, which is 16 divided by 64. I can divide those, let's see, 16 goes into 64 4 times, sorry, it's 1/4. Okay, so now let's look at 8 through 15. Simplify, we don't write our answers with any negative exponents. So I have 5 to the -12th power times 5 to the 3rd. Our product property says when I'm multiplying powers, we add the exponents. So I get 5 to the -9th power, which is 1/5 to the +9th power, which is 1/, some really big number, 1,953,125. If this were a quiz with no calculator, you would leave it as 1/5 to the 9th. Number 9 is x to the -4th times 3x squared cubed. So our order of operations tell us we do exponents first. So that's x to the -4th times, this is, the 3 is in the parentheses, so 3 cubed, 27. Power to a power tells us we multiply exponents, so that's x to the 6th. And then we end up with, add our exponents, 27x squared. Number 10, 4 to the 15th divided by 4 squared. And our quotient property says when we divide powers, we subtract the exponent, so we get 4 to the 13th power, which we could plug in a calculator and get 67,108,864. 11. 3 to the 4th divided by 3 to the 10th. When we subtract, we get 3 to the negative 6th power, which is 1 over 3 to the 6th. And this is often used as an illustration as why negative exponents go in the bottom, because when I subtract I get a negative, but if I were to write out all my 3's and divide out my 1's, I would get 6 3's left in the denominator. Number 12, a to the 4th divided by a to the negative 3. This often gives people trouble because I'm subtracting. So it becomes a to the 4 minus negative 3, minus negative becomes plus, so I get a to the 7th. Oh, and number 11 could be written as 1 over 729. 13, we have x to the 7th, y to the 3rd, over x squared y to the 8th. And we'll subtract the exponents on the x's, so x to the 5th, and subtract the exponents on the y's, and that's negative 5, so I'm going to leave the y to the 5th in the bottom, in the denominator. So x to the 5th divided by y to the 5th. 14, 5n to the negative 9 over 10n to the negative 2. So we divide the numbers, as always, we don't subtract them all of a sudden. So 5 over 10 is 1/2. And then we're going to subtract negative 9 minus negative 2 for my exponents. That's negative 9 plus 2, which is negative 7. So negative 7 means the n to the 7th goes in the denominator. So 1 over 2 to the 2n to the 7th. Number 15, negative 3a to the 4th, b to the negative 6th, negative 4a squared, b to the negative 7. So we're going to multiply our numbers. There's no exponent outside the parentheses here. So there's no exponent here, so I'm not multiplying anything. The negative 4 is not getting raised to a power, so I'm negative 3 times negative 4. That gives me positive 12. I'm going to multiply my a's, a to the 4th times a squared, add my exponents, so I get a to the 6th, and I get b to the negative 6 times b to the negative 7, so I get b to the negative 13, and that ends up in the denominator, so I have 12a to the 6th over b to the positive 13. All right, let's look at number 16. I have 2a to the 12th, b to the 6th, over 4a cubed, b to the 11th cubed. So now we're getting into the more complicated problems, and there's more options in how you want to do it. So one of the options is to reduce what's in the parentheses first and then raise it to the 3rd power. So let's reduce first. So 2 divided by 4 is 1/2. A to the 12th divided by a cubed, subtract 12 minus 3, we get a to the 9th. B to the 6th divided by b to the 11th is b to the 5th in the denominator, because it's negative. There's more b's in the denominator, so that's where it stays. And now everything here gets raised to the 3rd power. 1 to the 3rd power is 1. A to the 9th to the 3rd, multiply your exponents. A to the 27th. 2 cubed is 8. And b to the 5th cubed is b to the 15th. The only thing you could do differently is the 1 doesn't necessarily need to be there, because we know it's 1a to the 27th. Now the other way is to do your exponent first. I just want to show you both possibilities because I want you to realize there's more than one way to do this. So 2 cubed is 8. 8 to the 12th cubed is 8 to the 36 because we multiply our exponents. And b to the 18th, 6 times 3. 4 cubed is 64. A to the 9th because 3 times 3. Right, 3 times 3. And then b to the 33, 11 times 3. And now we'll simplify. 8 goes into 64 8 times. That stays in the denominator. 36 minus 9 is a to the 27th. And 33, or 18 minus 33 is negative 15. So b to the 15 stays in the denominator. Either way, you're getting the same answer. It just, it's just a preference. Number 17, x squared y cubed over x to the negative 4 y squared times x to the negative 5 y to the 4th over x to the 5th y to the 5th. Now again, here's another problem where there's lots of ways you can do it. Some people like to start canceling and crossing out exponents. This is usually how I do it when I'm doing it by myself, but I find it's sometimes hard to follow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators, and then I'm going to reduce. Okay? This is an easy way to follow along if you get confused with all the crossing out. So x squared times x to the negative 5 is going to be x to the negative 3. And I'm going to leave the negatives for now, okay? X to the negative 3. And then y cubed times y to the 4th, right? So y cubed and y to the 4th is y to the 7th. And then on the denominator, I have x to the negative 4 and x to the 5th. So that's x to the 1. I don't need to write the 1 if I don't want. And then we have y squared, y to the 5th, y to the 7th again. Now I'm going to subtract my exponents. Negative 3 minus negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. So I'm going to have x to the 4th in the denominator because it's negative 4, right? Negative 3 minus 1. Negative 4, that means it's in the denominator. And then 7 minus 7 is 0. So there is no y. So what goes in the numerator? It's a 1. We put a 1 in there because y to the 7th divided by y to the 7th equals 1. So remember, this is just one way of doing it. It can keep you more organized. You're more than welcome to do the crossing out, but don't get lost in all of your crossouts. So number 18 is 4. What the hell? We have 4 and to the negative 7 m squared times, let me move this stuff out of my way here, n to the 7th m to the 8th, negative 8. So I don't have anything to multiply the 4 by, so the 4 is going to stay. N to the 7th times n to the 7th is n to the 0, which is 1. So there's no more n's. And then m squared times m to the 8th is m to the negative 6th. And we write that with a 4 in the numerator because the 4 is not, does not have the exponent on it. And then m to the 6th in the denominator. Number 19. X squared y to the negative 6th over x to the negative 3 y to the 18th to the negative 2 power. So again, this one I'm going to simplify inside first and then apply the exponent. So I get x squared divided by x to the negative 3. That's 2 minus negative 3, which is 5. So it's x to the 5th. And then it's negative 6 minus 18, which is negative 24. So then it's y to the 24 in the denominator, because it's negative. And then we'll raise it to the negative 2 power. The negative can actually just flip it, make the reciprocal, y to the 24th squared, and then x to the 5th squared, which would be y to the 48 over x to the 10th. Number 20, negative 2x squared y to the 4th over 5x to the negative 6th y cubed times 20x to the negative 2 y to the 4th divided by 6x to the negative 4 y to the 5th. Okay, so again, I'm going to multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and then simplify. There's definitely lots of different ways you can do this. So negative 2 times 20 is negative 40. 5 times 6 is 30. X squared on the top, x squared times x to the negative 2 is x to the 0, which is 1. So there's no x in the top. The numerator, y to the 4th times y to the 4th is y to the 8th. And in the denominator, we have x to the negative 6 times x to the negative 4, which would be x to the negative 10. And y cubed times y to the 5th is y to the 8th. And our y's cancel. Y to the 8th divided by y to the 8th is 1. We can divide out those zeros, so we get negative 4. X to the negative 10 is in the denominator. That moves it back to the numerator, so x to the positive 10th over 3. 21, a squared over b to the negative 3 times a to the 9th b squared over a cubed b to the 6th to the 4th. Okay, so I'm going to simplify my parentheses. I have a squared over b to the negative 3, and then a to the 9th divided by a cubed is a to the 6th. B squared divided by b to the 6th is over b to the 4th, because 2 minus 6 is negative 4 to the 4th power. So now I have a squared over b to the negative 3 times a to the 24th over b to the 16th. And add my exponents, a to the 26th over negative 3 plus 16 is 13. So b to the 13th. That's going into the denominator for, I keep doing that. And let's see, 22, 3x to the 6th times negative 2x to the negative 4th cubed. So I have to do my exponent first. So negative 2 to the 3rd is negative 8. X to the negative 12th. We multiply these exponents. Times 3x to the 6th. 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. X to the 6th times x to the negative 12th. Add your exponents, so we get x to the negative 6th. The negative 24 is in the numerator because it does not have the exponent, and the x to the negative 6 moves to the denominator with a positive exponent. And number 23, to the negative 4 power. So I'm going to simplify inside. I get 3 in the denominator. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Negative 2 minus 3 is going to be a to the 5th, or a to the negative 5. Oops. I don't know what just happened. And b to the 4th divided by b to the 12th is -8. b to the -8 goes in the bottom as a +8. And we have nothing left here. So let's take that negative, flip it, so I get 3a to the 5th, b to the 8th, to the +4 now. Because the negative can also make the fraction a reciprocal. And 3 to the 4th is 81, a to the 20th, b to the 32. Number 24, 2x to the 5th over 3y to the -2 to the 4th, +4th. So 2 to the 4th power, 16. X to the 5th to the 4th, multiply your exponents, x to the 20th. 3 to the 4th is 81. Y to the -2 to the 4th is y to the -8. When I have a negative in the denominator, it moves it up to the top. So 16x to the 20th, y to the 8th over 81. And number 25. A to the -3 to the 5th divided by a squared b to the -2 times a cubed b to the 5th over a b to the -3 to the 5th. Let me make some room here for this last problem. Okay, so this a to the -3 to the 5th is going to be a to the -15th. What is going on with this pen today? Having technical difficulties. A squared b to the -2. And now I'm going to apply the 5th power here. A to the 15th, b to the 25 over a to the 5th, b to the -15. Multiply across my a to the 15th, a to the 15th is 0. And on the bottom I have a to the 2nd and a to the 5th, so that's a to the 7th in the bottom. And then here my b to the 2nd and b to the -15 is b to the -17. And here's where it gets tricky. This is 25 minus -17. So it becomes 25 plus 17, which is 1242. So b to the 42 over a to the 7th is your final answer. All right, guys, I hope this helped you with that worksheet. Tomorrow we will talk about what if the exponents are fractions, your favorite.